agencies are having hybrids in their fleet. City of LA has, oh my goodness, about 200 Priuses, another 100 or 150 Civics, Priuses in their fleet. LA County has just as many. But I don't see too many mechanics with the training for this. So, if you are trained on how to work on a hybrid, your stock value goes way up. Way up. None of the people that I've seen, I mean, right now what they do is, if there's a problem with their Prius, they send it to the dealer. So the city agencies, they're always looking for ways to save money. So if they know they have a tech that can work on their vehicle, they want that vehicle to stay in-house and get worked on in-house. You know, that's a big savings. And that's where your value comes in, having that hybrid training. Here we go, lithium iron phosphate. Any questions before we go on about the nickel metal hydride? No? Okay. Good. Thank you. Lithium iron phosphate batteries. Lithium iron phosphate, LiFe4 battery, also referred to as LFPs, lithium iron ferrophosphate. This is a type of rechargeable battery, specifically a lithium iron battery, which uses lithium iron phosphate as the cathode material. Lithium iron phosphate batteries have somewhat lower energy density than the lithium ion, which is LiCO02, but offers longer lifetimes, better power density, and are inherently safer. This is what I was talking about earlier. Lithium ion, we all know, all our cell phones are lithium ion. So how many of you have felt it where you're running low on your battery?
It's hot.
And it gets hot.
It's hot. It's burning.
Sorry, I need to respond to this one customer real quick.
Actually, I don't know if you guys ever know, but you know, all the metals when you're table of element. I don't know if you guys ever saw it. You know, the helium, hydrogen, all that stuff. Remember the second column? Second column we have potassium, lithium, all those things, right? Lithium, all those metals that are on that one column, when you mix it with water, they explode. Explode. I don't know if you guys ever heard of people getting burned with their sweat. Get burned while they're running and everything. Well, that's water too. And when it reacts and it comes in contact with the battery, with the lithium ion or the potassium or whatever, all the batteries, it explodes. Yeah.
So, as you know, when your cell phone gets warm, it's hot, that's the thermal runaway that's occurring. It's the heat that's generating. That's what happened. That's why you saw a couple of years ago Dell laptops that were catching on fire. Batteries that were filling. Dell doesn't make batteries. They have a manufacturer making them. But, you know, for lucky for us, the consumers, because they do have better performance, they use lithium ion. And I guess my thought would be, my guess on it is that they're using that because the batteries are relatively small. So it's because the size of the battery is not too much of a danger, they would think, in terms of what could happen. Well, so look at a laptop, if anything catches on fire in your pocket, I wouldn't be too that. But even with your cell phone batteries, don't leave them to get discharged and store them like that. They will go bad. My daughter did that to her little, what's it called? iPods, the little iPod, and she left it discharged and used it for a long time. And when she finally decided she wanted to use it again, she charged it up, went dead. Now she can only use it by having it connected all the time because it's got more battery life in it. And you can't replace the batteries on those either. Right here, as I mentioned earlier, this is actually what we're showing here, different types of lithium iron phosphates. This one I don't have with me as a sample because that battery, a little taller than this, one cell. This is, so imagine, this is give you an idea of the cost of lithium iron phosphate versus AGM. Now this battery here, fleet managers look like deer in headlights when I tell them they're going to spend $300 for this battery. They're used to spending $75 to $80 on the battery. So this is there are 6 cells in here. So that make 12 volts. So just imagine this. This is a 3 volt, and it would require 4 of these. Okay, each one of these was about $250 for 3 volt cells. So we need 4 of those to make this setup. So that's now what, $1,200 versus $300. And with that this actual cell here has a 80 amp hour capacity. This is a 100 amp hour. So that $1,200 $1,200 battery would $200 battery would only be 80 amp hours versus 100 amp hours, but significantly smaller and lightweight. Now, believe it or not, about 5 years ago, about 5 years ago, in Santa Monica hosted one of the first hybrid vehicle shows. And actually at that show, they had the Chevy Volt on display. They had the first prototype of it on there. And during that time of the show, they had some trucks there that were actually set up to run off of AGM batteries. It wasn't very efficient, but this was being done. There was actually also a vehicle called the Sparrow that you can look up.
Yeah, little small.
Yes, it runs on, I believe it's 13 Optima batteries, which is a deep cycle AGM battery. So some of the first electric vehicles were being used to use AGM batteries. And about then, people were starting to tinker with the idea of lithium iron phosphate. They had back there at that show too, we saw the first, someone got their hands on the Prius, yanked out the nickel metal hydride pack, and threw in a lithium ion pack into the car to extend the range. But avoided the warranty on that Prius. But that was the picture of what was yet to come. So I think now they're on the 4th generation now on the Prius. Now they have a plug-in version, and that's the evolving technology with the batteries and the evolving on the range. And I think it's really a sign of things to come. More and more manufacturers now are having that. Yes.
That on the Leaf, what kind of batteries are they running on that all electric car?
Oh, on the Leaf, it is I believe it's also a lithium iron phosphate. Now, who made a real, even the Chevy came out with a real compact little car. Spark.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And that is made with same type of cells as this, cylindrical lithium iron phosphate cells. Almost everything is lithium iron phosphate now with that, with the exception of the Tesla, which is using a hybrid of a lithium iron. So going back to that race team, gentleman said, this is limited, it's never going to increase in range. Whatever they're making now, if this is all they're ever going to make, they're never going to have any higher capacity. The only way they can have more capacity is make a bigger battery. So what they're working on is, you mentioned there's a starting version, which is the power version, and then the energy version, which is for long range, extended draw. They are working on making a hybrid between the two. Something that will have power, but also energy. So when they start to do that, they are now tinkering with the chemistry of the makeup of the design in the battery, that chemical reaction that's occurring. there's a fine line. They're concerned really about safety, and they're getting a lot of contracts awarded based on safety. And with that setup, it's fine. In electric cars, Tesla, pushed the envelope to really get that, because really it's the range that's the key. And they are working on it. There is some actual newer chemistries that are being developed, and I do know for a fact there is a new one that has been developed, but same gentleman with that car, the race team, but he had signed what's called NDA, non-disclosure agreement. So in my conversation with me, he could talk about it, but he couldn't go into detail. But basically, there is a new one. There's a chemist who's developed it, patented it, and it runs circles around this. So he's now figuring out what to do with it.
I was telling them just today that I was watching this documentary not too long ago about a battery that doesn't have almost the same energy density as the fuel that you have on the fuel tank.
Yes.
And it's like, it's going to work out, and we're in place, everything, but boy, that's gonna be.
Yes.
Steve, you might be talking about the one that mentioned,
Oh no, this is, the one I'm referring to is lithium based. Still lithium based. But they basically have, the same guy, they have a piece of equipment that if you come up with a chemistry that you've tinkered with, that you want to actually see it to what it could potentially do, it will actually have they have a system. You can input the data
Computer, right?
in the computer,
Yeah.
and they'll let them know what it'll generate in power, and they can actually build them a prototype. They've taken all the expense out of it. So they're down in, that company's in Vista. So the same gentleman who has that company, well, since that's his equipment, he's been tinkering, and now he's found that magic balance between energy and power, and getting that maximum runtime. So Tesla's looking at what they're doing on that 4x4, because Tesla wants to make an SUV. So imagine a plug-in Tesla SUV.
Almost 300 miles?
Yeah. So they're trying to figure out what, now the other thing they're doing too, this all ties to what you guys are working on, the motors, the electric motors. You have AC and DC. So which type of motor is a more efficient type of motor to have?
AC.
AC, that's right. But they're far more finicky. And they have to be programmed to run with the battery system. So also they have AC motors that are brushless. What's the next type that has a higher efficiency than brushless? What's the system? I learned this all in my drive, my 6 hours with this guy, 3 hours up and 3 hours back. In this class, so this was my training class I had. That's why all these questions I'm asking you is what I learned in that drive.
Inductive motors?
Magnets. Magnetic. So the Tesla, that's what it has, is that magnetic drive motor. So you have, first was DC, then you got AC, AC brushless, AC with magnetic. That AC magnetic motor being used in conjunction with a lithium iron phosphate hybrid chemistry for the batteries. That's how they achieved that high range on the Tesla. That's why it costs what it costs. But if you think about it, what they achieved in that Tesla, that's the equivalent of a 7 Series BMW with that price range. Their next car they're working on is the 3 Series of a Tesla. Now you're, when that vehicle, and it's coming out, when they have that out, they are going to have major market share, because there's a lot of people that will make the investment into an electric 3 Series BMW. That's a more achievable, attainable price range. a lot more people. So, pretty impressive things are going on. Well, gosh, you know what? I see the downside of doing this class because this is far more interesting. And if I talk to you about what I normally do, it's guaranteed to put you to sleep. But you know what? Batteries have to start somewhere, right? So we all learn from history. Here's the part where I don't need to do this anymore. So, very interesting. You'll see a lot of what we talked about with the nickel metal hydrides and nickel cadmium.